Wake up at dawn, coffee's brewing slow. Check the news, let the headlines flow. Black and white candles light up my screen. Patience is my saddle, keep my focus keen. 3/8 traps my rope, I'm ready to ride. Price pulls back soft, just a dip in the tide. Wait for the break, let it clear that line. Trade above the high and the profit's mine.
Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for May 22nd, 2025. Well, yesterday, boy, we got a nasty little pullback in the market. It happened very quick after we were trying to push the QQQ to new highs and then just an immediate reversal, pushing everything down. Pretty painful day if you were heavily long the market. Taking a look at what happened here overnight, we have European markets are red across the board here this morning, with the DAX down 190, FTSE's down 51, CAC is down 73 points. And Asian markets were red across the board last night, with Australia, Nikkei, Nikkei was down 313, India was down 203, Hong Kong was down 283, Shanghai was lower, South Korea was lower across the board last night. Australia down 38 points, so a little bit of a rough day. But when we look at U.S. futures this morning here, U.S. futures were essentially flat and trying to pick up in the NASDAQ once again. We've got Dow futures down 31 points at the moment, S&P 500 futures down $6.50, and the NASDAQ futures are down up 41.50, and I think I said S&P 500 futures were down. They're up 6 points. Let's take a look at what we had other areas of the market last night. One of the notable things this morning is Bitcoin is surging huge to new record highs. Right now we've got Bitcoin up $2,829 a coin. Ether is also up, and up substantially, 6.37%, $159 a coin, just tearing it up to the upside this morning. And we've got bullishness across the board there in cryptos this morning. Let's take a look at other areas of the market, because we're not feeling quite as bullish on oil here this morning. We're getting more news that OPEC may increase their output, and so we've got oil futures at the moment down $1.07 a barrel at $60.50 a barrel. You can see it's having negative impacts here on the producers as well, really starting to roll over to the downside. We've got Brent crude coming in at $63.82, and natural gas is also pulling back just slightly here today, maybe more of a rest at about 4.5 cents lower on nat gas. If we take a look at precious metals here this morning, well, after a big zooming day yesterday, pushing back up, well, we're getting a reversal. We're continuing up, but now we're reversing down. We've got gold futures down $17 an ounce at the moment. Silver futures are also lower here this morning. They are pulling back by 58 cents, a big strong pullback here on silver at the moment at $33.07 an ounce. Copper is lower this morning. Excuse me. Copper is lower this morning with a little pullback. We've got platinum and palladium lower this morning as well. Oops. Please excuse the voice, just a little bit of allergy issues here this morning. Let's take a quick look at what's going on in bonds today. Well, bonds still struggling in here. You know, what we've got going on in debt is nothing to be ignoring. And right now, Congress seems to be ignoring warning signs from general public on debt. That's driving bond prices higher. We've got the 2-year bonds right now coming in at 4.0. We've got 10-year bonds at 4.58, and we've got 30-year bonds at 5.09% here this morning, continuing to drive those rates higher. We'll see how that plays out, because this morning, after a big marathon session in markups and changes, the bill is headed to the floor for a vote sometime this morning. So kind of keep an eye to the news on that. So what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Thursday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at some charts, and let's see how we are going to plan on approaching the market for today. Remember, we want to shake off that bias. We want to look at the charts for what they are, not for what we would want them to be, and really focus in on the potential details. And really, that was the warning yesterday, to watch for a big potential pullback if those bears started. If any profit taking began, it could move quite quickly here to a downside move. And boy, did we get that yesterday. So let's take a look at what we have here this morning. Well, first off, the good news, if there is any good news in here, I'm just going to grab this line here. And you can see right here, we're trying to hold this area of price support. Now, if we hold that price support, great. If the bears have anything additional to say, however, and they push this back, we've got about another 300 points lower just to kind of fill that gap. If we don't hold that, well, it could get pretty ugly. We could come all the way back and kind of test the high of that big reversal candle, that big area of support. That's going to be a painful pullback. But if we were to pull back like that, it would just be coming back in here to the 50-day moving average, which would be a fairly normal thing for us to do, considering that we're up here just showing a struggle of the 200-day. So a pullback into that 50-day would not be out of the question. Now, if the bulls find inspiration today, then what we need to do is we need to push this back up. We're going to need to see if we can get back out above that resistance up here. It's about 800 points higher. Watch that closely. If we can pop through there, then of course I think we're probably going to be stretching on up to see if we can break through those recent highs here in the diamonds. SPY, very similar situation. We gave up quite a bit of move here in this consolidating zone here. Pretty big point moves. We're testing a little bit of support in here. If the bears have anything additional to say, then dropping down in here would likely be the next area, next test of support, and falling through there is where it gets a little bit painful. That's where we could drop through and fill that big gap that we left behind here in the SPY. Now, I got to tell you, with the pullback yesterday, the diamond, SPY, QQQ, IWM, still in bullish trends. So there's no big technical break here in the charts at all. Just that little bit of concern that if we pull back, the point moves could be substantial. A pullback here to the 200-day moving average, really not out of the question. If that were to fail, of course, then we'll look for that gap fill here to the downside. And QQQ, very much the same. QQQ, the strongest of the indexes at the close yesterday. Really, there's an awful lot of interest in just continuing to buy up big tech. And you can see here a little bit of a shooting star pattern, but no major technical damage in here because we're still in that upside trend. If the bears have anything more to say today, we do have a support level there we could test. Of course, then we start looking at the bottom side of that consolidating zone, and beyond that, we fill that potential gap, and that's where the pain could potentially come into the market. Once again, that'd be just a pullback to the 200-day moving average. Not an odd thing if that were to occur, but might be a little bit painful if you're overextended in some of those plays. Now, if we take a look at our Russell, IWM had a rough day yesterday, pulling back, breaking the support of this consolidation, pulling all the way back and filling that gap. Looks like we're going to at least complete that here this morning. You'll notice that our upside trend, we may have slipped that upside trend just a little bit, but if we catch support in here and bounce back up, I think we're in good shape. If the bulls have anything to say, let's see if they can press back up and break through yesterday's high and pushing through that resistance in the chart. Bears, of course, breaking down through this gap could cause a little bit of concern because we might move lower. We might catch a little support right in here or continue that progress to the downside. Once again, this is a failure up here of a major area of price resistance and downtrend. There's the overall downtrend in IWM and that big resistance area that runs all the way back here to 2021 and 2022. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. So far, that has served as a barrier to not allow the market to get through. Let's take a look at our VIX here this morning. Our VIX did get a nice little push up yesterday, and I did suggest yesterday maybe if the bears got going, maybe a retest of this downtrend in here. Well, we did all of that, stretched a little bit higher. If the bears keep going, if you remember yesterday, I suggested that possibility we could fill that gap in here, maybe push on up into this area around 23 handles. Watch that carefully if the bears do keep going today. If the bulls have anything to say, however, then maybe we ease this back in here. Nothing wrong with fear in the market right now because we just seem to have it's an interesting situation that we've been seeing where the market has been so bullish that it makes me a bit nervous in the sense that it's like everybody is in and it's not showing up in some of the economic numbers. It's not showing up in some of these confidence numbers. Kind of an interesting situation going on here. So we may be just a little bit carried away in that upside move, and perhaps instead of really falling, what we do is just rest, because we took a lot of froth out of the market already yesterday. Couldn't rule out the possibility of a bounce back up. And if we take a look at our T2122, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about here. T2122 yesterday on that really quick pullback here in the market on that day took a tremendous amount of froth out of the market. So when you look at this, if the bears have anything more to say, they've got a little bit of room here, and unfortunately that little bit of room is big point moves. But if the bears if the bulls can fight back in here, this is a good sign because we've opened up that opportunity to relieve back to the upside if the bulls have anything to say or any energy in the market. Just keep in mind, once we've lingered up here so long, we can do the same down here for a while. So be careful just rushing back in on things until this settles just a little bit. If we take a look at our T2108, turn lower, percentage of stocks above the 40-day moving average, pulled back, but no harm, no foul here. Again, we're just taking care of some of that frothiness here in the market where we had kind of moved up in a parabolic move. Whoops. Let's get T2108. Frothiness in here. We were really in that parabolic move, pulling back, but you can see we've got good areas of price support in here, really good areas of price support. If we were to pull back any more, somewhere around 50% of the stocks above the 40-day moving average would be a really good relief pullback here in the market. So watch that carefully. Bulls still in control despite the fact that we had that pullback yesterday. And T2107, same thing. We pulled back in here, coming down into some price support here in T2107, about 30% of the stocks above their 200-day. If the bears have anything more to say in here, we've got some good support down in this area, I think, in that chart. If the bears or if the bulls can continue to find that inspiration to bounce up off of here, not be out of the question and really relieved a lot of that pressure. Our T2101 here, however, continues to be a concern for me. On that bearish move to the downside, we finally picked up a little breadth. Breadth was weak all day long until those bears really came in and started to get that selling going. And as you can see, we kind of hooked over here in T2101. So now the question is today, will we have any follow through breadth on the bearish side to drive this breadth higher? If we get a bullish move in the market, what we need to see is that breadth push higher. We've been struggling with that breadth to the buy side, and I think one of the reasons that is the case is because everybody's in. Anybody that was going to buy is already in, and now everybody's waiting for some reason, some pullback to find those new entries into the market. So watch that carefully here. We'll see if we gain any breadth as we kind of slide into our busiest day this week on the economic calendar, which, by the way, isn't all that busy. Let's take a look at that economic calendar right now. This morning, we're going to get our normal jobless claims. Looking at the consensus, they're suggesting 230,000 in consensus for the consensus on jobless claims. That shouldn't hurt us at all. Should be just if we're in that range, we're in good shape. Chicago National Fed activity. This could be interesting. Last time we were at a negative 0.3 and a negative 0.1 on the 3-month moving averages. Keep an eye on that. Our manufacturing continues to be awfully weak, and we'll want to watch that one closely. We've got PMI composite numbers that are expected to come in and show just a slight decline in the manufacturing side. They didn't give us a composite estimate here today, so who knows where we're going there, but you can see we've got a 49.8, just slightly lower. That puts us in contraction on our PMI, and our services saying that that's going to hold steady in here just above the flat line here at 50.6. Little improvement over last time, a little decline from last time from 51.4. Let's take a look. We've got existing home sales coming in. Existing home sales, they're expecting that to improve to 4.13 million. So watch that carefully. Since we haven't seen the rates, I doubt the higher rates right now are really moving into this number just yet. It would probably be next month where we would see some pressure in here based on the higher rates. So we might be just fine in there. We've got quarterly services survey that will be coming out. We're going to get the natural gas report, and then as we move on down, Kansas City Fed manufacturing, it was a -4 last time. Keep an eye on that if we get an improvement. Bond auctions, 10-year tips, probably the most notable in there, and then we've got Williams speaking and a Fed balance sheet. We'll be looking forward into Friday. We've got new home sales. Cook is speaking. Baker Hughes rig count. We've got Jerome Powell that will be speaking out there on Friday. So watch that carefully toward the end of the day. So how about we take a look at what we've got going on our earnings calendar here today. Now, our earnings calendar, we've got a few things to be thinking about here today with some notable reports. Vance Auto, probably the most notable here this morning. Looks like I need to fix that. That's supposed to be a comma there. Ralph Lauren, ADI is in there. This afternoon, we've got some of our the better notables here. ADSK, Copart, Deckers, Intuit will be in there reporting, and Ross Stores, W-Day will be in there. Let's take a look at this morning. We've got Advance Auto doing a really nice pop here. This has been struggling so much to the downside. Look at how this has gone from $300 a share, or $250 a share, I should say, down to 39 bucks. Really struggling in here, so nice pop on Advance Auto. ADI here this morning, getting a nice little push to the upside. Very bullish pattern in the chart. Got to tell you, the bear flags are a dime a dozen right now. They're everywhere in the market. Nice little pop going on there in the pre-market on that. We've got ATS, well, so far this morning, not showing us much of anything. We'll have to keep an eye on that as that earnings comes out. We've got BT reporting today. Looks like not much going on there just yet. LPD, oops. Well, let's see. I'm going to have to check that, guys. I may have an incorrect symbol there. Ralph Lauren in here, not looking too excited about the earnings, but not looking bad here at all. Very nice bullish pattern here in the chart on Ralph Lauren. And then we've got TD, Toronto Bank, that trying to move a little bit higher here this morning. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube. Also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, clicking that thumbs up button, leaving a brief comment helps a ton. Remember, emojis count just as much for engagement with the video. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to do that. I do truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up for today. Remember, everyone, they're not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Be very careful in this market because the whips, again, can be very substantial, and you'll want to be watching that pretty darn closely. Let's take a look. We've got take a look at Expedia in here. Expedia has been pulling back to this upside trend. We did break back down below this support, but if we can get a little bit of bullish energy coming in here, we might push that right back higher. Keep an eye on that. If you take a look at Trip also, quite a pullback in here, but that is trying to break that upside trend. So remember, going to have to watch this closely on Expedia, but as you know, I'm looking for the stocks that are resting or pulling back. The ones that are already shooting up, I've probably missed those moves, so I'm not going to chase those to the upside. Take a look at stocks like SWKS. What a beautiful little consolidation in here on SWKS. We just need that little bit of bullish activity in here. Obviously, yesterday was pretty bearish, and we might pull on back and fill the rest of that gap. But I would still continue to keep an eye on this so we can get that bullish move going, that pop. Nice gap up here that could potentially be filled in SWKS. WDC continuing to hang in there, looking very good, even though we pulled back yesterday. It's still showing some bullishness, and I think there's every reason to believe that can stretch on up from my alert here right into that resistance in the chart. Don't be surprised if we get a considerable rest up there, but watch that carefully on WDC. Valero Energy had a rough day yesterday, pulling back, breaking back down below this trend here in the chart, and I am a little bit worried about this today with those new OPEC numbers. Even though we're seeing our distillates and things like that being very well, we need a lot of refining to pick up those numbers. I'll just put it that way. So watch that carefully here. If we can get any bullishness going, Valero may push on through to the upside. Take a look at STLD. STLD has been stuck in this range. One of the steel companies that is still holding up in here, worth paying attention to. If we continue to see the dollar decline, you would expect to see commodity prices to move on higher. So keep an eye on Steel Dynamics and MT. MT has been holding up quite well here on the steel side of things. Again, if the dollar continues to decline, watch that carefully. We want to take a look at some other areas of the chart here. Certainly we saw things in not KGC, gold really starting to pick up in some of those gold miners. Today we're getting a little bit of a drop in that, but this cross up here on our T21, our trap indicator, that's pushing up through that. We need that rest or pullback in here. If that can hold this support, then I would be looking for that next upside opportunity, and a lot of those gold miners doing that same kind of play. Take a look at Coca-Cola. Now, you wouldn't expect Coca-Cola in a extremely bullish market to be doing well. It's more of that defensive sector type trade. Nice little resting flag consolidation in here. If those bulls can find any inspiration here in the market, then I would look for that opportunity that Coke could pop on through. Take a look at things like Pinterest. Pinterest showing that same kind of pattern, that beautiful little bull flag in there. If the bulls can get going in here, very easy to see an opportunity to the upside there. Etsy in the same kind of pattern, nice little resting consolidation above support. We just need those bulls to step up and start pushing, and they may push that right on through to the upside. Take a look at BTU. Now BTU, I have a bias here. I am holding this. BTU had a pretty good day yesterday, but pulled back just like most everything did on that selling. But if we can continue to find bullishness here in the market, look for that opportunity. This could be about the time BTU pushes on through to the upside. So watch that carefully. Looking pretty good there. Take a look at CCJ. CCJ is looking very good in here on the uranium side of things. Look for that stretch to the upside possibly here. Take a look at UUUU also making that move. URA is having had a really nice day yesterday, pushing into that resistance. Ended up catching with the rest of the selling, pulling back in here. But watch that carefully on some of these uranium plays. Looking pretty good overall. Other places that were very interesting yesterday, we had some big stretch here in Philip Morris. Now Philip Morris still in that big stretch up with no really any major rest. We can see we're testing this resistance up here. Perhaps we just consolidate a little bit, or maybe we catch a little bit of pullback, or maybe we just blast right on through to new highs and then get that rest or pullback. But I would be watching for that next opportunity in stocks like Philip Morris, showing a lot of bullishness here overall. And utilities, I've been mentioning that utilities were holding in there strong. Had a good strong pullback yesterday, coming back in here into this trend area of the chart. I would watch that carefully, because if this can hold above this support area, that next opportunity to stretch on higher might be underway. So keep an eye on utilities as well. When we look at big tech, there's a lot of opportunity there in some of the big tech stocks. Google had a great day yesterday, and even though it pulled back from the highs, Google's still in a very, very bullish pattern. It might require a little bit more rest in here, back to that trend, but watch that carefully. I think there's any time Google could go ahead and stretch on higher. AMD, all kinds of setup here for that next upside move. Nice little resting pullback here. Watch that opportunity if that does push on higher in the chart. So there are quite a few of those big techs out there showing some signs of taking off. It was a mean whipsaw though yesterday, and so be really careful. You can see here on Medtronic, man, we pushed up yesterday. We broke through this resistance. That reversal yesterday was awful. So this is just that reminder once again, everyone, that we're in a very overextended situation here in the market, and if the bears do have any reason to push back, the point moves could be big. And if the bulls get major inspiration, well, we saw yesterday that 800 point range, we can easily zoom back up on that. So be careful in here with over trading, because we have that situation here that these data points coming out politically can really move us quickly. So make sure you have a plan to protect yourself if those big moves do occur. So with that, everyone, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thanks for being here this morning. Thanks for putting up with my congested head here. I hope it didn't come across too bad in the video. Y'all take care, be safe, and as always, I wish you all the very, very best.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail, trading with heart where the profits prevail.